The night my best friend handed me my wife's voice on a video file was the night my marriage died without making a sound. He looked like a man already buried who'd forgotten to lie down. Sat across from me, jacket still on, eyes hollow, hands shaking like he was holding a sentence instead of a phone. She cheated, he said. Classic. Pain. Booze. Hate. I almost tuned out. But he wasn't crying. He was trembling. I have a recording, he added. And you need to see it. You're out of your damn mind, I said. I'm not watching your fiancé screw someone. He went quiet for a long time. Then, barely above a whisper, brother, it's not about her. That was the first crack in my spine. He slid his phone across the table. His fingers shook so hard I thought he might drop it. There's something on this video, he said, that's going to flip your life upside down. Not mine. Yours. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because fear sometimes wears a smile when it walks in. Play it, I said. The video opened on a dark hallway. Camera tilted, rushed, like it had been hidden fast. Voices drifted in. A woman laughing. A laugh I knew. My wife's. The blood drained from my face so fast I thought I might pass out. That's, I started. Keep watching, he cut in. I did. And what I saw wasn't betrayal. It was rehearsal. My wife stood in a stranger's apartment like she owned the place. Calm. Confident. Not like a mistress, like a director giving notes. Leave the camera running, she told the man off screen. I need everything documented. I couldn't hear my own breathing. Why? The guy asked. She smiled. Not warm. Not nervous. Surgical. Because he needs to see who I've been this whole time. Who's he? My husband. Don't worry. He won't get angry. He'll break. The video cut. Silence swallowed the room. The world didn't collapse. It reorganized itself into something colder. Everything came rushing back. Her sudden sweetness. Her strange questions about trust. That sentence she dropped a month ago like a test balloon. Sometimes the truth isn't for forgiveness. It's for freedom. She knew. I whispered. Knew what? My friend asked. That I'd see it. He nodded. And the worst part, he said. That video hit my cloud anonymously. Timed. 1 week after she moved in with you. That's when it locked into place. She didn't just cheat. She chose the moment. She chose the witness. She chose destruction as an exit strategy. I didn't go home that night. I sat in my car until sunrise, not thinking about screaming or revenge or divorce. I thought about how dangerous it is to live with someone who plans your collapse in advance. Calmly, methodically, without emotion. In the morning, I sent her one message. I saw the video. You don't need to explain. I know who you were. And I know who I don't need to be anymore. She replied a minute later. Then everything went exactly right. And that's when I understood the truth most men learn too late. Sometimes cheating isn't weakness. Sometimes it's a weapon. And the cruelest ones don't stab you in the back. They aim straight for your mind. By the time I finally went home, the house already felt like a crime scene everyone else had cleared out. Her shoes were by the door, perfectly aligned. The kind of detail people mistake for order when it's really control. The lights were off, but the place smelled like her, citrus cleaner, expensive perfume, something sharp underneath that I'd never noticed before. Or maybe I had, and I just didn't want to name it. I didn't call her name. I walked straight to the kitchen and poured a glass of bourbon I'd been saving for a promotion she'd pretended to care about. The ice cracked loud in the silence. I watched it melt and thought about how many nights I'd come home early just to sit across from her and talk about nothing. About plans. About the future. About loyalty like it was a shared language. My phone buzzed. Lauren, you're not home. No question mark. She already knew. I didn't answer. I went upstairs. The bedroom looked untouched. Bedmate. Pillows fluffed. Like she was staging a hotel room for someone who didn't plan to stay. I opened her nightstand. Empty except for a charger and a receipt folded twice. I didn't read it. I didn't need more proof. Proof was for people still negotiating reality. The closet was where it finally hit. Her clothes were gone. Not all of them. Just the important ones. The expensive dresses. The jackets she wore when she wanted to be taken seriously. She'd curated her exit. Left behind the costume. Took the armor. That's when I understood something else. She hadn't just planned for me to see the video. She'd planned for me to come home alone. My phone buzzed again. We should talk. There it was. The script. The soft landing she thought she deserved. I finally typed back. About what? The dots appeared immediately. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. About us. About why this happened. I laughed out loud. It came out ugly, like a cough. Why this happened? As if betrayal was weather. As if she'd slipped on a wet floor and fallen onto another man's camera on purpose. You didn't trip, I typed. You built a stage. Minutes passed. Long enough for my hands to stop shaking. Long enough for something cold and precise to settle in my chest. Then her reply came. I needed you to see me clearly for once. I sat on the edge of the bed we'd picked together and felt something finally snap. Not loud, not dramatic. Just clean. Clearly, I said to the empty room. That word explained everything. All the little cuts I'd ignored. The jokes at my expense in front of friends. The way she corrected me in public, softly, like training a dog. The nights she went quiet after sex, already somewhere else. This wasn't impulse. This was resentment with a calendar. My phone rang. Not a call. A FaceTime request. I declined it. Then another message. You always needed control. This was me taking mine back. That one was special. That one deserved to be framed. Because Lauren had never known what control actually looked like. Control isn't chaos. It isn't theatrics. It isn't blowing everything up and calling it freedom. Control is patience. I didn't answer her again. Instead, I opened my laptop. If she thought the story ended with me watching a video and walking away broken, she'd misunderstood the kind of man she married. I wasn't loud. I wasn't dramatic. I didn't throw punches or beg for explanations. I documented. I pulled bank statements. Phone logs. Shared cloud access she'd forgotten I had. Dates lined up too perfectly to be coincidence. Transfers she couldn't explain without lying. And Lauren lied the way professionals do. Confidently, consistently, with just enough truth to keep herself sane. By sunrise, I had a folder. By noon, I had a lawyer. And by evening, Lauren sent her final message of the day. You're being very quiet. That's not like you. I stared at it for a long time. Then I smiled. Because for the first time since I met her, she was right about one thing. This wasn't like me. This was better. Silence makes people tell the truth. Lauren proved that within 48 hours. She showed up at the house like nothing had changed. Same confident walk, same controlled smile, same body language she used at charity dinners when she needed donors to feel important. She didn't knock. She still had a key. I hadn't changed the locks yet. Not because I forgot. Because I wanted to see how far she'd go when she thought the ground was still solid. You look exhausted, she said, stepping inside, eyes scanning the room for damage. Broken things. Signs of collapse. She found none. I was sitting at the dining table, laptop closed, coffee untouched. Calm makes liars nervous. I watched it happen in real time. You didn't answer my calls, she added. That's childish. I smiled without warmth. You recorded your affair. Let's not talk about childish. She exhaled slowly, like she'd practiced this breath in the mirror. You're twisting it, she said. That video wasn't about sex. It was about honesty. There it was. The moral high ground. She always tried to build one fast. You planned it, I said. You staged it. You sent it. That's not honesty. That's execution. Her jaw tightened for half a second. A crack. She recovered quickly. You think you're the victim, she said, shrugging out of her coat. But you were emotionally absent for years. I was lonely. Invisible. You made me feel. Stop, I said quietly. The word landed heavier than shouting. She froze. I stood up. Slowly. Deliberately. I wanted her to feel the shift. You don't get to rewrite the marriage because you got bored, I said. You don't get to claim loneliness when you were plotting humiliation. Her eyes flashed. Anger now. Real anger. The mask slipping. You never saw me, she snapped. I gave you chances. No, I said. You gave me a performance. That one hit. I could tell by the way she crossed her arms, like she needed armor. She laughed then. Sharp. Defensive. You really think you're some mastermind now, she said. What are you going to do? Divorce me? Ruin me? You're not built for that. She meant it. Lauren had always believed I was predictable, stable, safe. A man who absorbed damage quietly and kept the lights on. I opened the laptop. Didn't turn it toward her. Just opened it. That sound, hinge, click, made her stop talking. I spoke to a lawyer, I said. She scoffed. Of course you did. I also spoke to a forensic accountant, I continued, and an HR compliance officer. Her color shifted. Slight, but enough. You moved money, I said calmly. Joint funds. Small amounts. Spread out. You thought it wouldn't show. You were wrong. Her mouth opened. Closed. You used company travel to meet him, I went on. Expense reports, emails, calendar entries you forgot synced to the cloud. That's not, she started. And, I said, finally looking her dead in the eyes, you violated a morality clause in your employment contract. That one landed like a body blow. She didn't sit down. She didn't pace. She just stood there, calculating. I watched the math happen behind her eyes. You wouldn't, she said softly. You don't want scorched earth. I leaned forward. Lauren, you filmed my destruction and scheduled its delivery. Her voice dropped. You're bluffing. I clicked the laptop shut. I haven't played a single card yet, I said. This conversation? This is me being polite. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked unsure. Not scared, but unstable, like a structure that had lost one critical beam. You think this makes you powerful, she said. It just makes you cruel. I nodded. Good. Now you're learning. She left without another word. No slam. No tears. Just the sound of heels retreating down the hallway she'd already abandoned. When the door closed, I didn't feel relief. I felt clarity. Because revenge wasn't the goal. Justice was. And justice, unlike anger, doesn't rush. It waits. Lauren underestimated one thing. Not my anger. Not my resolve. My memory. I remembered every offhand comment she'd made over the years. Every joke that landed a little too sharp. Every time she'd casually mentioned how replaceable people were, how loyalty was a concept, not a contract. I used to think she was being edgy, intelligent, honest in a way most people were too scared to be. No, she was rehearsing out loud. The lawyer, Daniel Foster, mid-50s, the kind of man who never raises his voice because he doesn't need to, listened without interrupting. I slid the folder across his desk. He didn't react. That was how I knew it was bad. Lawyers who see nothing nod. Lawyers who see everything go quiet. She doesn't know what she started, he said finally. No, I replied. She thinks she finished. Daniel laid it out clean. Divorce. Asset freeze. Employment exposure. Civil liability if we chose to pursue it. He wasn't dramatic. He didn't need to be. The facts were already violent. She'll lie, he added. A lot. I know, I said. She always does. That afternoon, Lauren called. I let it ring. Then she texted. I think we got off on the wrong foot. I almost admired the audacity. You don't have to do this, she followed up. We can control the narrative. There it was again. Narrative. Story. Control. She didn't want forgiveness. She wanted editing rights. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove past her office. Her car wasn't there. That meant one of two things, panic day or planning day. With Lauren, panic looked like planning. By evening, mutual friends started reaching out. Casual check-ins. Thinly veiled concern. Lauren had started talking. I knew her pattern. She never went full confession. She preferred implication. Let people fill in the gaps with sympathy. He's unstable lately. He changed. I felt unsafe. She always chose words that couldn't be pinned down, only felt. That's when I understood the real battlefield wasn't the marriage. It was reputation. So I moved first. Not publicly. Never publicly. I sent one email. Carefully worded. No emotion. No accusations. Just documentation. Timelines. Attachments. Receipts. 3 people received it. Her HR department. Her direct supervisor. And compliance. By the time I poured myself a drink, my phone started buzzing like it was trying to crawl off the table. Lauren. Lauren again. Unknown number. Lauren. I didn't answer. At 11:43 p.m. A message finally came through that wasn't rage typed. What did you do? That was the moment. The exact second the power dynamic snapped. I typed back one sentence. I stopped protecting you. No threats. No explanation. Just truth. She showed up again the next morning. No makeup this time. Hair pulled back too tight. Eyes sharp, but tired. She didn't bother with pleasantries. They're auditing everything, she said. My accounts. My expenses. My travel. I nodded. That's usually how it works. You sent that video to people, she accused. No, I said calmly. You did. I just stopped catching it when it fell. Her breathing changed. Faster. Shallower. You're enjoying this, she said. I shook my head. No, I'm correcting it. She stepped closer, lowered her voice. You think anyone's going to see you as the hero? She whispered. A cold, vindictive husband who destroyed his wife because she had an affair. I looked at her then. Really looked. No, I said. They'll see a man who didn't lie. and a woman who did. Everything else is noise. Her face hardened. The mask came back on, but it didn't fit as well anymore. You're not done, she said. You'll never be done. This will eat you alive. I smiled. Not because it hurt less, but because it didn't hurt at all. No, Lauren, I said. This is the part where I sleep. She left furious. Not screaming. Not crying. Cornered. And for the first time, I knew something she didn't. The most dangerous phase of betrayal isn't discovery. It's exposure. And she was just beginning to understand how much of herself she'd put on camera, without realizing who would eventually be watching. The first thing Lauren lost wasn't her job. It was her certainty. She'd built her life on the assumption that she was always the smartest person in the room, always 3 steps ahead, always holding the emotional high ground. Watching that belief erode was almost clinical, like observing a structure fail exactly where the engineer swore it couldn't. She stopped calling. That's how I knew the pressure was real. Instead, she sent emails. Long ones. Carefully written. The kind that try to sound reasonable while quietly rewriting history. We both made mistakes. You weren't present. This doesn't have to destroy everything. She never once said I'm sorry. Not for the video. Not for the planning. Not for choosing humiliation over honesty. Apologies require accountability. Lauren didn't apologize. She negotiated. Daniel warned me this would happen. She'll pivot, he said. From defense to victimhood. From aggression to appeal. Don't engage. I didn't. While she was typing paragraphs, I was building a timeline. Every expense report. Every deleted email recovered. Every calendar entry that mysteriously overlapped with business trips. Patterns don't lie. People do. By the end of the week, Daniel called me personally. They've suspended her, he said. Pending full review. I closed my eyes. Not in relief. In confirmation. Suspension isn't punishment. It's isolation. That's when people unravel. Lauren came over that night without warning. Not angry. Not dramatic. Quiet. That was new. She stood in the doorway like a guest who knew she wasn't welcome but didn't know where else to go. They froze my access, she said. I can't even log into my own accounts. I said nothing. They're asking questions, she continued. About the video. About the transfers. About you. Still nothing. Her eyes finally met mine. And for the first time, there was something real in them. Fear. You could stop this, she said. You could tell them it was a misunderstanding. I leaned back in my chair. A misunderstanding, I repeated. You filmed an affair. Directed it. Scheduled its release. That wasn't confusion, Lauren. That was intent. She swallowed. I didn't think you'd react like this. That sentence said everything. She didn't think I'd react. She thought I'd absorb. She thought I'd collapse. She thought I'd disappear quietly so she could tell the story her way. I didn't do this to hurt you, she said quickly. I did it to free myself. I stood up. No, I said. You did it to control the ending. Her voice cracked. Just slightly. I loved you, she said. That one almost worked. Almost. You loved how I made you feel safe, I replied. Loved how I didn't ask questions. Loved how I believed you. I walked past her to the door and opened it. This conversation is over. She didn't move. If you keep pushing, she said, desperate now, you'll ruin both of us. I looked at her one last time. No, I said. Only one of us built their life on lies. She left without another word. 2 days later, the letter arrived. Formal. Polite. Devastating. Termination for cause. Breach of contract. Ethics violations. Lauren called me that night. Crying. Real crying. Not performative. Not strategic. I don't know who I am anymore, she sobbed. Everything's gone. I listened. Not because I owed her comfort, but because this was the moment truth finally caught up with her. You knew exactly who you were, I said quietly. You just didn't think there'd be consequences. She hung up. I sat alone in the house we once called ours and felt something unexpected settle in. Not joy. Not vengeance. Balance. Because justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it arrives in silence, paperwork, and the slow collapse of a lie told too many times. And the final reckoning? That was still coming. Once Lauren lost her job, the noise stopped. No more emails. No more late-night calls. No more attempts to rewrite the past in softer language. People who thrive on control go quiet when they lose their audience. That silence wasn't peace. It was compression. Pressure building inward. Daniel called it predictable. Now comes the counterattack, he said. When reason fails, they reach for leverage. He was right. 3 days later, I was served. Not divorce papers. A restraining order request. False allegations wrapped in vague language. Emotional manipulation dressed up as concern. Claims of intimidation. Of psychological pressure. No specific events. No dates. Just feelings. Carefully curated feelings. Lauren was trying to flip the board. I didn't panic. I smiled. Because this was the mistake. I met Daniel that afternoon. He read the filing once, then looked up at me. She's desperate, he said. And reckless. Good, I replied. So am I, but only with facts. We responded within hours. Security footage timestamps. Text messages. Her own emails, contradicting her claims line by line. Proof I hadn't contacted her except through counsel. And the video. Not the explicit parts. Just her voice. Her words. Her intent. Leave the camera running. That sentence did more damage than any accusation I could have made. The judge denied the order the same day. Lauren didn't show up. That absence spoke louder than anything she'd filed. By the end of the week, the tone changed again. She stopped attacking. She started begging. Not directly. Never directly. Through friends. Through family. Through people who suddenly just wanted to check in. She's not doing well. She didn't mean for things to go this far. She's scared. Good. Fear is honest. Then her sister reached out. Long message. Carefully worded. Apologetic without admitting fault. Asking if I could show mercy. Mercy. A word people only use when power has already shifted. I replied once. Tell her to talk to her lawyer. I'm done being her solution. That night, alone in the living room, I finally felt the weight of it all. Not the betrayal, not the anger, but the exhaustion that comes after carrying someone else's lies for years. I slept better than I had in months. The divorce filing happened quietly. No theatrics. No dramatic announcements. Just documents delivered with precision. Lauren contested everything at first. Assets. Responsibility. Narrative. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't need enthusiasm. It just needs consistency. Each hearing stripped away another layer of her story. Each deposition boxed her in tighter. She contradicted herself under oath. Forgot which version she'd told whom. Watched her own words come back to her on paper. Time-stamped and unforgiving. The final mediation was brief. Her lawyer avoided eye contact. Daniel didn't. Lauren looked smaller. Not physically. Structurally. Like someone whose internal scaffolding had been removed. She tried one last time. You don't have to destroy me, she said quietly, voice shaking. I met her gaze. I didn't, I said. You did. I just stopped standing in the way. She signed. So did I. Walking out of that room, I expected to feel triumph. I didn't. What I felt was release. Not because I'd won, but because I was finally free of managing someone else's deceit. Some people think revenge is fire. They're wrong. Real revenge is clarity. Real justice is permanence. And permanence is knowing the person who tried to break you no longer has access to your life, your mind, or your future. Lauren lost more than a marriage. She lost the privilege of being believed. And once that's gone, nothing brings it back. After the papers were signed, something strange happened. The world didn't applaud. No one threw me a party. No dramatic reset button appeared. Life just kept going. And that's when the real consequences started to show. Lauren tried to rebuild fast. Too fast. New apartment. New haircut. New social circle. She posted quotes about healing, about growth, about choosing yourself. The kind of recycled wisdom people use to wallpaper over disaster. But reinvention only works when there's no record. Lauren had left fingerprints everywhere. Mutual friends stopped inviting her to things. Not openly, just quietly. Dinners got smaller. Guest lists got shorter. People answered slower. Nobody accused her of anything. They didn't need to. They'd seen enough. She tried to reach me once more. Not through lawyers. Not through family. Directly. A handwritten note slipped into my mailbox. No return address. Inside, 3 sentences. I never meant to turn you into my enemy. I miss who we were before everything broke. I hope one day you forgive me. I read it once. Then I shredded it. Forgiveness isn't something you ask for after you've finished burning the bridge. It's something you earn before you light the match. Around that time, my best friend, the one who brought me the video, finally broke down. Not over his fiancée. Over guilt. I should have told you sooner, he said, staring into his glass. I didn't know how. You did exactly what you needed to, I replied. And I meant it. He lost someone who lied to him. I lost someone who tried to erase me. Different levels. Same poison. Work changed too. People treated me differently, not with pity, but with caution, like they sensed something sharpened under the surface. I stopped volunteering explanations. I didn't tell my story unless someone asked directly. Power doesn't explain itself. One evening, months later, I ran into Lauren by accident. Grocery store. Late. Almost empty. She froze when she saw me. For a second, I saw the version of her I married. The composed smile, the practiced ease. Then it slipped. "Hey," she said. "Lauren," I replied. Silence stretched. "You look different," she said. "So do you." She nodded. Looked down at her cart. Generic brands. Nothing curated. "I hear you're doing well," she said. "I am." That wasn't a lie. She hesitated. "I lost a lot." I met her eyes. No anger. No satisfaction. "I know." She waited. For blame. For validation. For absolution. None came. "I thought destroying the marriage would set me free," she said quietly. I didn't realize it would follow me. I picked up my bag. "Truth always does," I said. As I walked away, I felt something settle completely. Not hatred. Not victory. Closure. Lauren's punishment was never going to be loneliness or financial loss or public shame. It was memory. Being forced to live with the exact person she revealed herself to be, without anyone left to project it onto. That's the kind of sentence you can't appeal. And as for me, I finally understood something most men learn too late. Justice doesn't restore what was taken. It removes what was poisoning you. And once it's gone, you don't look back. Healing doesn't arrive like an apology. It shows up disguised as routine. Mornings where the air feels lighter. Evenings without tension humming under the silence. Decisions made without asking permission from a ghost. I didn't rush into anything new. That wasn't fear. That was discipline. I needed to know which parts of me were damaged and which had simply been suppressed. There's a difference. One needs repair. The other needs room. Therapy helped. Not the soft kind. The kind that asks questions you can't dodge. Why did you stay so long? Why did you ignore the early signs? Why did control feel like stability? Those sessions weren't about Lauren. They were about me. Because betrayal doesn't just expose the liar. It exposes the blind spots of the one who trusted. I learned I'd mistaken calm for safety, intelligence for integrity, confidence for character. Lauren wasn't an anomaly. She was a pattern I'd never questioned because it benefited me, until it didn't. That realization hurt more than the video ever did. Around that time, the lawsuit concluded quietly. No courtroom drama. No press. Just a settlement that didn't make headlines, but made a point. Funds returned. Liabilities assigned. Lines drawn permanently. Lauren signed again. Each signature smaller than the last. I heard through mutual channels that she'd tried to spin it as mutual fault. Growth. A chapter closed. But chapters only close when the reader believes the ending. People remembered. Not the sex. Not the gossip. The planning. The coldness. The intent. That's what sticks. One night. Months later, I sat alone on my balcony, city lights stretched out like a promise instead of a threat. I realized something then that caught me off guard. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger had done its job. It got me moving, got me focused, got me out. Now it was obsolete. What replaced it wasn't joy, it was precision. I knew what I would never tolerate again. I knew what questions I'd ask early. I knew silence wasn't peace if it was bought with self-erasure. Lauren had taught me all of that. Not by being honest, but by being exposed. I deleted the last folder that night. Not because I needed to forget, because I didn't need to remember anymore. Justice had already done its work. And unlike revenge, justice doesn't linger. It leaves space. Space to rebuild without fear. Space to trust without blindness. Space to choose, not react. I poured a drink and raised it to no one. Not to survival. To clarity. Because the opposite of betrayal isn't forgiveness. It's discernment. And once you have that, no one ever gets to break you the same way twice. The strange thing about months after the storm is how quiet life can feel. Not empty, just recalibrated. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. The way the sun hit the kitchen counter in the morning. The smell of fresh coffee without the tension of pretending everything was fine. Evenings where silence didn't mean hiding a lie. It meant freedom. I ran into friends I hadn't seen since everything broke. They asked questions, careful ones. "How are you holding up?" they'd say. And I realized I didn't have to explain. Not really. Not anymore. Silence was enough. The truth had already done its work. One night, I got a text from Lauren. Only 2 words. I'm sorry. I read it 3 times. Then I deleted it. Not because I didn't hear her, because I had. And I didn't need more. I didn't need performance or remorse. I didn't need her to reconcile with herself by reaching for me. By then, I understood something profound. Betrayal isn't about the act itself. It's about the ripple it sets in motion. And those ripples? They hit the liar harder than the one who was betrayed. Eventually. Always eventually. A few weeks later, I saw her photo on social media. She smiled the same way she always did in pictures. Practiced, calculated, confident. But the eyes told a different story. Smaller, edgier, watching, waiting. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel triumph. I felt distance. The kind of distance that isn't about hatred, but about being untouchable, untethered. I went to bed that night thinking about control, about the illusion of it. Lauren thought she had it, thought she could manipulate timelines, people, perceptions. She underestimated patience, planning, and consistency. By the time she realized what she'd lost, reputation, trust, influence, freedom, it was too late. The life she tried to rewrite had rewritten itself without her. And me? I slept soundly, because I'd discovered the truth. The cruelest form of justice isn't loud. It isn't televised. It doesn't roar. It's quiet. It's permanent. It's knowing that the person who tried to destroy you is no longer capable of touching your life and never will be again. No words, no confrontation, no revenge needed. Just the slow, undeniable collapse of lies and the restoration of reality. And finally, peace. Years later, I still remember the weight of that first video. The way it split my world in half. The way it forced me to see someone I loved as a stranger. But what I carry now isn't anger. It's clarity. I rebuilt. Not just the house, the bank accounts, or my life on paper. I rebuilt myself. The man I was before Lauren's lies wasn't the man I became. I learned to recognize red flags before they became chains. I learned that calm doesn't always equal safety. That confidence doesn't always equal loyalty. That love, no matter how deep, doesn't excuse deceit. I remarried, yes. Someone entirely different. Not flashy. Not manipulative. Not someone who planned my destruction like a chessboard. Someone honest, who woke me up with laughter instead of lies. But the lessons I carried from Lauren's betrayal, I never forgot them. They weren't bitterness. They were armor. And the truth about revenge? Most people think it's about punishment. About yelling, or humiliation, or public spectacle. But the cruelest, most effective revenge doesn't come from fury. It comes from life itself. From moving forward. From letting the liar live inside the world they shattered while you thrive outside it. I never spoke to Lauren again after the divorce was final. Once, I heard she tried to rebuild a career, a reputation, a life. None of it stuck. People remembered. People never forget the weight of calculated cruelty. She was left with her memories and her choices. And that, as I realized, was punishment enough. As for me, I wake up every morning without fear. I trust again, carefully but fully. I love without forgetting, but I never let my guard down where it matters. Betrayal taught me that. And maybe the hardest truth I carry is this. The world doesn't owe us justice. People don't always get caught. Liars don't always pay. But when they do, and when you survive it, the most terrifying power they ever had over you vanishes entirely. I look back, sometimes, not with hate, but with understanding. I survived the betrayal that could have broken me. I survived the manipulation, the lies, the performance. And I emerged with one unshakable truth. No one has the right to destroy your life. And if they try, let the truth, time, and your own clarity do the work. Because nothing is more ruthless or more permanent than living well after someone tried to ruin you.